We saw earlier today, Manny Machado and the Padres won to split the Seoul series. We've been learning more about Mrs. Ohtani. We've been getting our first looks at Shohei Ohtani and the new look Dodgers. But the biggest story, massive theft that came out. Now here's the
theft. Yeah, okay.
Here's the latest that's come out from around the news of Shohei Ohtani and his interpreter, whose name I'm probably not going to say correctly, but the interpreter for Shohei Ohtani, who has now been fired as of Wednesday night, was involved with robbing Ohtani of millions of dollars, engaging in some illegal sports betting with an allegedly illegal bookmaker. And now there's been a federal investigation that's been launched. Ohtani did not have any comments on it today, but his lawyers have come out and been speaking about what's going on. And he also had a spokesperson saying how Ohtani did at one point transfer funds to cover Mizuhara's gambling debt. Of course, there's been a lot going on here. So lots of details that we're still getting. And of course, it's going to take some time for us to finally iron out what's going on. But the Dodgers did release a statement after firing the interpreter yesterday. And that they also came out and were mentioning, the fact that we've fired him. The Dodgers are aware of media reports and are gathering information. The team can confirm that interpreter Ippei Mizuhara has been terminated. The team has no further comment at this time. And those gambling debts, Jamie, millions of dollars that had been gambled on national soccer matches and other sports, but not baseball, starting back in 2021. And the gambling debts reached as much as $4.5 million. Holy moly.
Yeah. As Chris Carter would say, you got to have a fall guy. And look, we're not going to know what happens here for a little while, but what we do know is that Major League Baseball is going to do everything they can to save the face of the league, the sport, the highest paid player ever, a guy that's an international superstar. At best case for Shohei, he is violating the league's CBA. At worst case for Shohei, he is illegally gambling with an illegal bookmaker and trying to cover the tracks. Here's the facts that we do know in the order that it happened. An Ohtani spokesperson told ESPN, because apparently ESPN has been working on this story since January when it first came out. An Ohtani spokesperson told ESPN that Ohtani covered Mizuhara's gambling debt, which ESPN learned was up to $4.5 million. That same spokesperson delivered Mizuhara to ESPN, who said in an interview that Ohtani was never involved with the betting and he paid off his personal debts out of friendship. It's a good friend, huh? And then the Ohtani spokesperson backtracked, telling ESPN that Mizuhara's initial account is untrue and that Ohtani is the victim of massive theft. Mizuhara then changed his story, saying Ohtani had no knowledge of Mizuhara's gambling debts and that Ohtani had never transferred money to the bookmaker. Lot to digest there.
Lots.
I think the original story that Mizuhara confirmed said he paid off his personal debts. I think Ohtani and his camp immediately realized that would be a violation of the CBA and tried to change their story hastily, quickly. If he's covering his friend's gambling debts, it's an illegal bookmaker.
Yeah.
And he's in the state of California. So regardless, then my next thought goes to what... First of all, what a great friend if he's actually covering $4.5 million for him. What bookie is going to extend a line of credit to a translator making... Let's go on the high side and say he was making $200,000 a year. What bookmaker is going to stake that man $4.5 million? Then you have the bank wiring. And I know Mickey Durkin in our chat has worked in banking before. I read something from a banker last night who deals in... big money wire transfers, and they said it would be next to impossible for somebody not named Shohei Ohtani to conduct those transfers because there's secondary checks, there's signature scans, there's all sorts of stuff, and they speculated that it would be very hard for Ohtani to have not been involved with this. So that's what leads me to the best case for Shohei is that he violated the CBA. Now, the MLB doesn't going to want to suspend him, but you have to think a suspension is on the table here for Shohei Ohtani because at worst, I don't know how, or at best for him, I don't know how he avoids this.
Yeah, this is not great at all. I know in the chat, Chris, first of all, congrats on being first. You guys are talking about this, and there's a lot of Chris, Dave, Randy, Mickey, a lot of similar thoughts. Matt as well of like, first of all, how does your interpreter have access to your funds?
He shouldn't.
And you should not. Now,
I don't even have access to my own funds.
We know. You literally don't.
I mean, like,
Mizuhara has been Ohtani's interpreter since 2018, back with the Angels. He and Ohtani
like
clearly have a great,
apparently.
I was going to say, they clearly have a great relationship, understandably so. But I don't have a single friend in my life that has access to my bank accounts. And as you mentioned, you don't even have access to your own bank accounts.
I barely know what bank I have.
Okay. Now, Mizuhara did mention, I want everyone to know Shohei had zero involvement in betting. I want people to know I did not know this was illegal. I learned my lesson the hard way. I will never do sports betting ever again. It just all is very questionable. And it seems like there is a scapegoat here. And it does. I know you guys are also kind of making the same points of like, how did he have no involvement? Is Ohtani, essentially is the blame being pushed to the interpreter? And it does seem that way. And like you said, Jamie, regardless, on some level, it's hard to think Ohtani is completely innocent in this. $4.5 million from your bank account. That's your first being told you transferred to help cover the gambling debt. There's a problem right there. If you were not covering the gambling debt, then you now have money that's being stolen from you. And how are people, like you mentioned, getting the signatures and everything to steal that much money from you? It's just a lot of things that the math ain't mathin'. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. And now I know you guys are mentioning, we've seen this before in the past. What will Major League Baseball do? This is the face of the league. We spent the entire offseason talking about Shohei Ohtani and this legendary deal that he just got with all this deferred money and everything, and how doesn't need to get paid now. He's getting money off of endorsements. Okay, well, we're learning that there's some other money that's being moved around for Shohei Ohtani. Allegedly not by him, though, but it's not a good look at all.
And, like, even if he is his best friend and right-hand man, like, in whatever, Shohei's not, like he has a finance guy. He is a lawyer. He is a finance guy.
I just find it hard to believe he has no idea. $4.5 million.
His interpreter should not have access to millions and millions of dollars. And then in the inverse of that, if Shohei actually was robbed of $4.5 million, you don't think his finance guy is going to flag that and be like, "Hey, Shohei, what's this transfer?"
Since 2021.
What are these $500,000 transfers I don't know anything about? Can you explain those to me? I mean, the smell test on this absolutely stinks. Now, I've seen Pete Rose's name mentioned in the chat. One big differentiator here is Pete Rose bet on baseball.
Right, and that's what was clear. They did mention, now we don't know for sure,
but it's an illegal bookie.
They have said it's all international. It's soccer, it's other sports, it's not baseball. It is an illegal bookie. So at the end of the day, there's still something that doesn't pass the smell test. I know Chris in the chat, what's up, Chris? You're saying, if he had power of attorney, would he need Shohei's approval? Why would he have access? Ooh, I just knocked the mic. Why would he have power of attorney or access at all? Like that, again, I don't know if any of you guys, because you obviously have already mentioned you don't even have access to your own money. I don't know if any of you guys have anybody in your life outside of maybe your spouse that has access to your funds, your banking. You're raking in millions and millions of dollars. You just launched this logo with New Balance. You just got this, incredible deal with the Dodgers. You mean to tell me somebody has access to your money outside of you and your wife? No way.
It's a little fishy.
Doesn't make sense.
And Mickey says, what if he bet on baseball? We'll wait for those details to come out. I saw some pretty funny, some memes this morning that was like, when you realize you bet the... when you bet the Padres over, but you lost the game in the old Alonzo morning. Twitter was on fire last night. Pretty much, I think everybody, more or less, joking or not, thinks Ohtani is definitely implicated in this in one way or another. Because, if he did steal the money, then he should fire his finance guy. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, that's the other thing. Somebody else has to be thrown under the bus for this.
You got to have a fall guy.
Yeah, and I know Mickey's mentioning in the chat, who does have that banking experience. He could be an authorized signer on the account, which would allow him to transfer without Shohei. But I don't know about you guys, and I don't just do this because of Rocket Money. I legitimately know every cent coming in and out of my account. I'm nowhere near making millions of dollars. I find it hard to believe that for 3 years. Now, again, we first heard that Shohei was transferring the funds to him. Shohei was transferring the funds to him to be able to help cover the gambling debt. Then we're told Shohei is now unaware of the money being transferred. Either way, I don't know about you guys, but I'm also aware of everything going in and out of my bank accounts. You're getting alerts, especially massive transfers like this. That's not quietly happening without you. Like, you maybe one time his interpreter forges a signature, but for 3 years, Shohei's had no idea with, as you mentioned, finance guys, lawyers, all that he has around him and his team.
Yeah.
That's problematic too.
One of my favorite jokes online last night was they should do the reverse Jordan with him, where, MJ was sent to minor league baseball for 2 years there. They should send Shohei Ohtani down to the G League and see him hoop a little bit. I mean, if Shohei's playing down in Delaware for the Blue Coats, I will make that trip down there to watch him hoop. I watched the Dodgers Padres game in here on the Dodgers Network this morning on the MLB app, and I was very curious about the post-game show. Adrian Gonzalez is one of their hosts, by the way, and there was a 3-man studio set. They strictly only talked about, no surprise here, but they only talked about the game. Shohei then in the locker room afterwards was apparently fenced off by Dodgers PR, and media was told he won't be speaking today. And somebody said, well, yeah, his interpreter's gone. Oh, yeah, Yamamoto's in the same locker room. I'm pretty sure they could find a slide-in interpreter if they actually wanted to get in front of this.
Not the reason.
But, Major League, it's going to be very interesting. This is a massive story and one that's probably not going to go away anytime soon. I mean, look, it's the face of the team. If it comes out. Oh, and another angle of this is the bookie. Let me just find the exact quote here. Was basically more or less telling people that Ohtani was one of his clients. There is a lot in here that's just really bad for Ohtani, and we'll see what happens. But the bookie was more or less said he never met Ohtani. He said the bets were international soccer and other sports, but that he was, basically alluding to people that Ohtani was one of his clients in hopes of drumming up the business. So, baseball wants this to go away. I don't think it's going to go away. And is he going to get a Pete Rose suspension? I would highly, highly doubt it. But I think some suspension of some magnitude is going to be in order here because, as we said, at best for him, he was still breaking the league's CBA and wire transferring illegal bookies' money. So helping a friend or not, MLB and the Dodgers, I'm sure, are going to do everything in their power to minimize this. But good luck. This seems like a massive story.
It is. And, as you look at that timeline, and actually Ohtani and Mizuhara met back in 2013, so they've known each other over a decade, back when Ohtani was in Japan playing. And when you look at the timeline of the $500,000 loans, as they were listed as, that were transferred from Ohtani's name on two $500,000 transfers sent, in the span of September to October 2023, the math, again, it doesn't add up, and there's a lot of questionable things here that do not make sense. And at the very least, if Ohtani was at all even involved in conversations with, with him or Bowyer is his name, Matthew Bowyer is the bookmaker that met Mizuhara back at a poker game in San Diego in 2021. If in any way he knew his interpreter was gambling and sent him money to cover it to anything, that is illegal. And so the hardest part is we are now in week 1. The Soul Series was kicking off 2024. And here we are with a crazy, crazy story that's going to just shake up, forget just baseball, but sports and bigger than that.
Yeah.
And so it's here we've been so excited for the 2024 season. We've been looking forward to games starting. And here we we
Yeah,
mass chaos.
John Zaquel, don't worry. We are going to bitch about Taiwan Walker. But this honestly has the possibility of being one of the bigger sports stories, not only of the year, but of the past couple years. I mean, depending on what transpires here. So we will get to it, but we felt as though Ohtani had to be addressed right off the bat.
And there was a comment that also came out because, again, we've been hearing comments and then they've been redacted and we've been hearing other comments that cover it. But there was a comment that Mizuhara said that Ohtani didn't simply give Mizuhara the money. Instead, he paid Bowyer's associates directly because Mizuhara claims that Ohtani didn't trust Mizuhara, the interpreter, with the money. So Mizuhara said, Ohtani didn't want me to gamble. Ohtani didn't want me to gamble it away.
That might be the first part I actually believe.
I know. Mizuhara said he told Ohtani he would pay him back, but instead Ohtani allegedly sent the money directly to the bookkeeper. Ding, ding. That's red flags are going off.